we're trapped on the double burden, you see, of class and caste. You see, we have a number of blacks who cannot move economically just because of their skin color. And you have other blacks who cannot move because of the way how goods and services are distributed in the country. And to that extent, one continues to hear the cries of racism in the country because a black person still has to be seen in terms of his adjective, which is his skin color, rather than his noun, his very person, his very being. A black person cannot really be seen within the context of this country as a subject, but only as an adjective, some black. To that extent, one has to categorize, the Ralph Bunches and the other great minds who have been able to break up through the muck and through the mire of things. And the general American population gets the impression that there's just one Ralph Bunche in a lifetime who has the genius to deal at the international level. And the fact is, if blacks were able to function on more objective conditions, in one sense as they are in athletics now, blacks have the same potential to participate vigorously in academics and in law and in politics and in international affairs as they do in athletics and in entertainment. And I think that the real issue of freedom is raised when one cannot realize his potential because his growth is inhibited by something, by some phenomenon such as color.
So these basic political desires and needs become essential as the reason why we have a liberation struggle going. And not until black people actually receive these basic 10 points will, in fact, I'm talking about in full with a new system here, not until black people receive these basic political desires and needs will there have been a revolution. And for us to receive these things, there is going to be a bloody revolution, because we go into the community in terms of and the black community to organize and bring black people together in some unified fashion, unified around these 10 points. And every time we do that, those pigs attack us. And when they attack us, we have to shoot back so we can get our basic political desires and needs. This is the meaning of why it's going to be a bloody revolution, because that racist pig power structure with its military and everything else is going to try to murder the people who are going to go forth to try to institute new government.
I wonder, do you really see this as a means of committing engaging in a contrived effort on the part of those who make the decisions of eliminating black people? Is this a form of suppression also? To make sure, in other words, that black people are railroaded into prisons, into jail?
In the whole history of the United States, the impact of racism has been to attempt to contain black people, has been to attempt to stifle the desires towards liberation. One of the ways in which this is accomplished is by trying to convince black people that they're completely powerless before this huge apparatus, and that the police can just come into the community and pick someone out, kill them, as they have done on many, many occasions in the past, charge them with something they didn't do, railroad them to prison, send them to the gas chamber. This is just one of the many ways that the system, and it's not a contrived effort in the sense that it's done consciously by a few men up at the top. It's built into the system. It's built into it's built into the nature of this society. And getting back to the question of what a revolutionary is, black revolutionary realizes that we cannot begin to combat racism. We cannot begin to effectively destroy racism until we've destroyed the whole system.
We have to begin to unbrainwash ourselves. The biggest lie that this country has told about us is that we are lazy. And here goes some of us running around. Yeah, you know how black people are lazy. We are lazy. White people are so lazy, they sold us to do her work for her because she was too lazy to do it.
If revolution would be successful in this country, first of all, I would envision a complete absence of the capitalistic mode of doing things. I mean, the profit motive turning the resources of the earth into private property so that individuals and cliques of individuals can derive the benefit from the production, while the people who are really the backbone of production come out short, and millions and millions of people are left completely out of the process altogether. We want to eliminate that system, and for it substitute one that will be based on the principles of socialism that would recognize the true condition of the planet, that all of us come here the same way. We come here naked. We don't come here with deeds of trust and blue chip stock in our hands. We come here naked on an equal basis, and we have therefore an equal right to access to all of the things that we need in order to survive on this planet. So that we want a system that recognizes that and that is structured in a manner that this can be produced and provided for the people.
Like when you call upon us, you say white folk, you say black people, Jewish people. Why can't we come together? We obviously can come together. We just have to. We just have to find a way to do it.
The desire is good, but the reality is the total opposite of your desire. And unfortunately, as a young lady, you are not in the position of power to make the decisions to make America work. May I, you know, as an audience of intelligent people, I would like to just take a moment to say to you that I really don't think you fully understand what has happened to these people that you look at as second class or inferior citizens in this nation. Black people who were brought to this country were stripped of their names, language, culture, religion, God, and taken totally away from the history of themselves. Here are 30 million people who don't wear their own names, they wear your names. Who don't speak their own language, they speak English, which is not their language. They never were allowed their own cultural expression of Africa. Don't you realize that when you turn a people upside down and inside out, then sell them not for a day, not for a year, but for 300 years, and deny us the human right to know, to read a book, to learn, to understand, and then after 300 years of that, you allow us into the church, but by that time, you've painted Jesus white, God white, the angels white, and then all these black people have been subjected to a form of white supremacy, which produces in the reverse a black inferiority. And this is fulfilling what Jesus said, as a man thinketh, so is he. And as long as our people think the way they think, we will never be able to do what we as a people should do to correct our condition.
It's your saying, okay, white folks, it's your turn. You know, I'm going to be the general, you're going to be the private. This is the way you're going to march. And when you get through marching over there, you're going to come back here. I might pay you, and I might not. So what we're really trying to say is black, we say we don't want no white liberals. That's right. You know, because, you see, the word white liberals is an unconscious racist statement because nobody's ever admitted that we got black liberals, who's far more worse than white liberals. And we also say we don't want them in the movement. You see, a black liberal in America is the colored doctor that when we demonstrate that say we shouldn't, but after we finish, he becomes the first colored public health commissioner. and so we saying that, can you come with us and cease being white? We need bodies, and we need cats that think black regardless of how white you are. Because you see, I have run across Negroes who's much lighter and act more whiter than you. And so I have to take their word for them if I can't take their attitude. And when I was in show business and people asked me, what percentage of white folks do you think is laughing at your humor because they are guilty? And my answer to them was, I cannot look at a cat and just because he's light and look white, assume that he's white. Because he might not be a white cat and be laughing without a damn thing to be guilty of. And so what we're really saying is that, you see, white is not a color, it's an attitude. Black is not a color, it's an attitude.
And working in this fashion, police brutality in Oakland stopped for a period of 6 months. The pigs were made in a period of time to act in a desired manner. So they went forward to the state of California, the legislature, to make laws against the Black Panther Party, against black people, to say that you could not arm yourself. They went forward so far across this nation, and as you know, the nature of this country is violent, its history is violent. Violence being projected upon people, violence used to steal and take from people. Went forth, and they've gone forth to tell people to disarm themselves. Mayor Alioto of Frisco asked the people to turn in their weapons. I knew no Black Panthers was not going to turn in their damn weapons. And if you think it's a bunch of jive, then you better listen twice. Now, we walked around this country, black people, we sat in, and we rolled in, and we slided in, and we prayed in, and we swimmed in, and we begged in, and we jumped in, and we had all kinds of ends. And while we was having these ends, we was singing, "We shall overcome." And while we was singing, "We shall overcome," the power structure sent his pigs down, and they kept a beat to the tune of the song, "We shall overcome," with a billy club crushing our skulls. We got to stop it.
Well, see, sister, you have to realize this, that it's been traditional. The white men have been able to tell us what's going on with us, and we don't know.
That's right.
We don't know.
White America, the total community, is incapable of condemning herself for the acts of brutality and bestiality that she has heaped upon the total black community. She cannot do it. If she did, she would have to commit suicide. That may not be such a bad idea.
That, it is hypocrisy. I don't see any prospect of these people who, on the one hand, are willing to drop bombs on the Vietnamese people who are struggling to control their country, and then coming here with their wars on poverty, trying to turn black people into black capitalists, when in fact it's the capitalistic system itself that has to be destroyed, because it is the mother of all this oppression. The same situation that your people found themselves in when they came here, and that other ethnic groups have found themselves in, we find ourselves in that position. Plus, we find the descendants of those ethnic groups that first came here now part of the power structure and actively involved in oppressing us. And they've united against us. They've closed the doors to the melting pot against us. And so we can't do anything but step back.
The Black Panther Party is a force for justice in the name of peace. And we realize that we're shedding blood now. We're being killed, that either by the vicious service revolver of the occupying army, which is the police, who's directed by the avaricious businessman and the lying politician, or we're being killed through the lack of medical care, the lack of funds because of unemployment. We're being killed because of lack of nutrition. So violence can take many forms.
Of all the people who are arrested in this country and charged with crimes, only 1% are ever tried by a jury. Only 1% are ever tried by a jury, which means that the vast majority of people in this country who are brought before a court either end up pleading guilty on the advice of a public defender who doesn't have the time, who does not identify with his client, who has the interests of an overcrowded court system uppermost in his mind. He counsels them to plead guilty, and they, as you said, he tries to make a deal. Sometimes that doesn't work.
No justice! No justice! No peace! No justice! Al Sharpton goes, he makes trouble. This is not Johannesburg. Get out of here!
The way he stirs everybody up, he makes everybody hate each other.
Whenever there's a highly charged, highly publicized racial incident in New York City, the Reverend Al Sharpton is likely to be right in the middle of it.
We know that no one can continue evil if the spotlight is put on them. You know, wicked racists is like roaches. When you turn the light on, the roaches run for cover.
Sharpton is organizing a march to the Bronx,
Good the way y'all agree.
the scene of the latest reported racial incident.
Who's children? All children. Who's children?
The Reverend and his followers are the self-appointed avengers.
I think that hate is an emotion. I would love to use love, but if I've got to use hate, I'll deal with what my hand calls for. Participants and attackers of Tawana.
Sharpton grabbed the national spotlight in 1986 when he became the spokesman for Tawana Brawley, a young girl who claimed she had been raped by 4 white men.
Another black case that a
Sharpton alleged racism.
No evidence.
A grand jury called it a hoax.
We will prove
That case earned him the reputation as a demagogue.
Yeah, I have an image of an angry black man. I am an angry black man. We're trying to raise an issue that's solving racial justice. If someone murders someone, it should not be dependent on the skin color of the victim, on how they're punished. It should be equal protection under the law. This is the Bronx DA. These are calls for help, police brutality.
There is no shortage of cases.
How you doing?
Al Sharpton opens the door to people others have turned away.
As far as the investigation, I don't know what they're doing. I know no one has been arrested.
Detective Palacios, this is Al Sharpton.